بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا ومدينا بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In this lecture, I'd like to share with you a very important methodology in how we should understand Islam and understand the rulings of Sharia of Islam. And I would like to start first with that concept of Sharia. What do we mean by Sharia? So Sharia has two levels. Sharia has two levels. The first level is a general level. It's a comprehensive term that comprehend and include everything related to Islam. So Islam in itself is a Sharia. And Sharia in that sense means a way of living, a philosophy of living, a methodology of living. So your worldview is Sharia. وكذلك ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها ولا تتبع أهواء الناس. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have created for a Sharia, a methodology that you should follow, and don't follow the other desires of others, which are the different philosophies people have. So this is the Sharia in general term. But we have Sharia in a very particular sense, in a technical sense, if we can say. So Islam and the Sharia in general sense encompasses faith, iman, akhlaq, manners and behavior and morals, and Sharia. And Sharia in that sense means the law, the rulings, do's and don'ts. What's forbidden, what is lawful, what's halal and what's haram. And this is the Sharia in that sense. And today's topic is about the Sharia in that sense, law, and law regarding family, regarding families. How can we understand it? And how can we face the challenges we are having and the family is having? And how can we explain to people why we as Muslims believe in certain things? Why do we Muslims have these things that people might think of them as odd, as not appropriate for our time, for the modern time? So to understand that, we have to have this comprehensive sense of understanding Islam, to know the place of Sharia. So see how Sharia, how the rules and laws and rules are occupying that very limited space. There is faith, which occupies a big space in Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. And we have akhlaq, manners and behavior, which occupies a big space as well. And then we have the third place, we have Sharia, laws and rules. But people keep focusing on that. But when people focusing on that, they don't approach it the right way. We approach it partially. We try to take some parts of the Sharia, of these rulings, we take some laws, and we are trying to understand them isolated from the whole system. But to understand these laws and rulings regarding the family, we have to understand them within the organization of Islam. Islam is like the Sharia in the sense is like an organization. That organization has objectives, goals. And these objectives, some of them are necessary objectives. They fall under necessities. Some of them are needed objectives, fall under needs. These are needs for human beings, necessities that a human life cannot function without them. People cannot achieve happiness in this dunya and akhirah and the hereafter without that necessity. Then we have needs. They are required things for life to go straight. And then we have enhancements. They would make life better. And family, I'm going to look at family as one of the necessities. Family is one of the necessities that Islam came to preserve. But why Islam aimed at preserving family as a necessity? For keeping and preserving the whole system of the life of the Muslim. Why family is that important? Because if we look at family, we would find family is the first unit that makes communities. Family is the basic. Family is the first stone, first perk. When you try to build a community, there should be a family. And the family would make up, there's going to be another family. Those families will gather together and make the community. And if the construction unit, if the first and the single unit of that construction is corrupted, the construction will be corrupted one day. The full organization of the community would collapse one day. That's why if the verbs you are using to build your building, which is a community, are strong and solid, the community will be strong and solid. That's why families are important. Another thing that why I aim to talk about family today, because this is one of the biggest challenges for Muslims in the West. And I will tell you why. The whole concept of family is based on that Islam created 3 levels of protection for the individual in the community. For the individual in life in general. So there are 3 layers of protection for every single individual. First and foremost is believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is going to produce taqwa. Taqwa is to be conscious and aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you are conscious and aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is going to be the first barrier, the first curtain, the first layer of protection from doing wrong things, from doing sins, from doing bad things. Taqwa. What if there is a moment of weakness? That happens to every one of us. A moment of weakness. A moment that you cannot control yourself. A moment where you are not that conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are forgetful. Human beings are forgetful. Here comes the second layer that Islam made. Family. Family is the second layer. And family not in that sense of the Western sense of family, but family in the larger sense of the extended family. And we can notice it in back home for those who are coming from overseas. We can notice how family, when we were kids, played a role, the extended family, in educating us, in disciplining us, in raising us in a good way. How family is doing what we call in anthropology and sociology as internalization. This is a very important concept in sociology. How communities incorporate values and beliefs. How Muslims in a certain community incorporate in themselves the values and beliefs of Islam is through this internalization. And internalization is happening through the family, like extended family, and the community in that larger sense. That these values are embedded everywhere. These values are, you can see them in your dad, you can see them in your grandfather, you can see them in your uncle, you can see them here and there in the community. And they became part of you. And you cannot think of yourself without them. That's how values is transferred and internalized. You adopted them. They became part of you. And once this concept of family is not there, once this layer is not there, we have only the third one, which we only have here in the West. Law. The third barrier between you and doing wrong things is law. And when law is made by people, they would prohibit what they think is for them most important to be prohibited, and they would allow what they think that could be bad, that could work, could go with it. And since human beings are limited in intellect, limited in the way they think, our minds are limited to what we know and what we experience, we cannot have a comprehensive understanding of what amends the self and what keeps and preserves and maintains the human being upright and righteous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who is able to put laws and rules that consider everything, that keeps the human being upright and conscious. So that's why the Islamic law comes as a third prayer. But in our community, we have only one prayer, which is law, enforced by authorities. But if you don't have this strong faith and taqwa, you lost another prayer. And families here are not that strong. And if the community is not strong, you lost another prayer. And it's only wrong. That's why we are suffering on this. We need to understand how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made all these layers of protection for the human being, for a human being to protect him. So that's why family is important. And for some of you, like maybe familiar with Islamic jurisprudence, there's a term called al-aqila. Al-aqila. Al-aqila is a group of people. When a person, they appear in fiqh in that sense, but they are there everywhere. They appear in that sense. So when a person kills someone by mistake, so what happens here is a person must pay diya for the family or for the family of that person by mistake. But who pays this sum of money? Al-aqila. Al-aqila, in the opinion of the Shafi'is and Hanbalites or the Hanbalis, Al-aqila are those close relatives to the person who committed this killing. He killed by mistake, but the close relatives are the one who paid that sum of money. And this reflects how this aqila is responsible in a sense on the human being. It is not only when you are having a family, having a wife and kids, you are responsible in a family. No, if you have parents, you're responsible. And all of us must have parents. And so you start being responsible once you reach that age of being legal, having legal capacity, you are responsible in a family. And here the responsibility comes. And let's take it from there to start knowing how can we understand the rulings regarding. So what is why those people should pay? He made a mistake. Why those people, the asabat, in the opinion of the Shafi'is and Hanbalis, why should they pay them? There is a good rule lying there. Al-ghunmu ala qadri. Gaining equals losing. Those close relatives are the one who inherit from that person when he dies. So since they are going to pay when he dies and when he has money, when he has wealth, they should also pay the tax of that when this person makes something. And at the same time, those people have a responsibility, moral responsibility, to make sure that this person is not using tools that might kill someone. Or if the person committed by mistake, they should also take the responsibility and support, this sense of support. That's why family is important there. And I'm talking here about the sense of family. Why it is more valid in our communities, in the Western communities. So let's look how the Western philosophy is functioning. It is based on two basic units, materialism and individualism. And here, the family is lost. Every single person is looking for what pleases him himself. That is why we look around us in the community, not in the Muslim community, I'm talking about the Western community. There's different beliefs and faiths, and even those who don't have faith or belief. The materialism urges people to gain what benefits to them. So to have the desire, to have the pleasure, and the pleasure only. Why do I take the pleasure and take the responsibility with it? If I'm thinking in a materialistic and individualistic way, I want to give the pleasure. So you would find the easiest way to achieve that, and the easiest way that cope up with this view of materialism and individualism is to have casual relationships. You know a girl for a certain period of time, you have pleasure together, and that's it. No responsibility. And this paradigm, and it is about a paradigm, this philosophy is all about that. And having also same-sex marriage is a natural result for that. It is the least cost. You get the pleasure, you get what you need with the least cost. This is business, this is a market. And this is the philosophy of the market. That is why it is important, it's a challenge that starts facing the Muslim families nowadays. That we are living in a community where we ourselves became adopting some of this philosophy of materialism. But is Islam against the person being like, or the individual side of the person? No. There should be an individual side. Individual property is respected. But the family side responsibility, the family responsibility must be respected as well. And must be considered. But every single individual is going to be responsible for himself in the day of judgment, and responsible for those who was responsible for him in the dunya. But he would come by himself. That's why there is an individual and at the same time the family and the community. Islam came not to cancel the individual, not to cancel the ambitions of the individual, but to create a balance between these individualistic ambitions and what achieves the good for the whole community. It is not only individualistic. And if it is this way, we are going to have what we're having. And this is what's happening. And that's why when we are dealing with these things, partially, when we go, why Islam is against same-sex marriage? They don't harm anybody. This is what we hear, right? This is the justification. Two people, by themselves, they don't harm anybody. They are nice, they are kind. All these justifications we hear, but we have to work. And let's go to our topic of today. I'm sorry, I didn't have this whole introduction, but yeah. Islam came for objectives. And I'm going to talk about necessities today. And one of the necessities is to preserve family, or in other terms, offspring. To preserve family and offspring. And why Islam is preserving family and offspring? This was the introduction. But let's see how Islam did that. So Islam did that not partially by just picking and choosing. No, in a system. There is a system. If you understand the system, one would understand why Islam did that. The first thing is Islam created the establishment for that. Marriage is the organization, is the umbrella under which this relationship is going to happen. And the Quran called the marriage وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْكُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا, a firm, strong covenant. Firm and strong covenant. It is not a joke. It's not just for pleasure. Again, Islam is not against pleasure. One of the objectives of marriage is to have pleasure. Is to find a way to fulfill these desires and needs. But at the same time, this entails responsibility. So, because it's one of the objectives, one of the necessary objectives of Islam, of Sharia, to preserve the offspring, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked believers to marry. And when people came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they thought that to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to be one of those who are sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is refrain from marriage. I'm not going to marry. So I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, no. إني أصوم وأفطر وأنام وأرقد وأتزوج النساء. And he made marriage part of the sunnah. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Whoever turn away, avoid my sunnah, whoever reject my sunnah is not from my followers. Is not from my nation, is not from the Muslims. It is sunnah from the Prophet ﷺ that even when they have the ability to marry, they should go and marry. يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. Whoever have the ability to marry, you should go and marry. Yeah, Sheikh Muhammad is just trying to get me in trouble. Yeah. He's recording. If he's not recording, I will tell you that he's still. So I'm 2, 3, 4. Yeah. But Islam to preserve, he built that institution of marriage. And he made many things to enhance that. Enhancement objectives, like choosing, try to find a good woman, and the woman should choose a righteous man. إذا جاءكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه. So, and this is part of the first necessity, the first necessary objective, حفظ الدين, the preservation of the religion. So I have 5, I forgot to mention them. Preservation of religion, preservation of the self, preservation of the intellect, and preservation of the property, the personal property, wealth, the preservation of offspring or family. We have 5 necessary objectives for the Sharia. Sharia came to establish that. So like marriage is one of them. The second one is after marriage is for kids to obey their parents and to be good to their parents. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is decreeing for every single believer is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And this is, by the way, this is like the biggest thing. Like, and then وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and be good to your parents. And we always hear that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put 2 things together, this means that they share the same importance. So being good to your parents, number 1. This establishes the power of parents in the family. And what is happening now is Allah is giving kids a way to escape that and to threaten parents that you don't have control over my life. But what Islam is trying to implant, to tell and to achieve, that the kids should know that your parents have a kind of authority over you. Because they are the ones who providing that mother figure for you, family, the sense of the family. So I understand the word rahim and why Islam is encouraging. I'm going to talk about that later, but why Islam is encouraging silat al-rahim, connecting and strengthening the ties of kinship, silat al-rahim. And the word rahim, why silat al-rahim? Because there are, as I understand it, there are 2 wombs, there are 2 rahim. There is a womb when the baby is still in the womb of the mother. He is not only getting food, he's not only getting feeding, he's getting genes, he's getting characters from both parents. And after getting out that womb and he is born, he is inside another womb, which is the family. The family is representing the other womb in this dunya, where also the family is responsible for feeding and at the same time giving other genes, other characteristics, values and beliefs. So it was important when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when we understand why marriage is crucial and what it is, because of that we are establishing that establishment family. Because family is important and it is one of the necessary objectives for the Sharia. So we have to create what creates family, marriage. What destroys family, other corrupted relationships. Relationships outside marriage, same-sex marriage, all these are against. And here comes how we understand that, because offspring and family connections, our responsibility is basics there. But these casual relations, these irresponsible relations, makes it difficult to have responsibilities and to hold a family. And that is why Islam is against that. We look when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to the people of Lut, إنكم لتأتون الرجال وتقطعون السبيل وتأتون في ناديكم. So you have relations with male وَتَقْطَعُونَ السَّبِيلَ. Some scholars say, تَقْطَعُونَ السَّبِيل, you cut the natural way of having offspring. Some other scholars understood it as they were like doing like highway robbery. They are just like literally standing in the way to take people's money. But some others understood it, no, you are cutting the way for the natural procreation. So, understanding the philosophy of the Sharia and understanding the philosophy of Islam, we can understand that within them. Islam is not looking at individuals that you own your body. Your body is your own property. You can do with your body whatever. This is what the materialism and individualistic philosophy of the West is telling you. You own your body, you own your money, you can do with your body whatever, you can do with your money whatever. But in Islam, when you are wasting your money here and there without being conscious what you are doing, Islam here comes and says, no. Because the philosophy of Islam is saying money belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you are just, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the responsibility to spend that money in ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you to spend. You cannot overspend. You cannot spend in haram and unlawful ways. So here comes Islam and say, oh, there is hajj. There is restriction. Your family can go and make a lawsuit against you and say we need to put limitations on his capacity to spend that money because he's spending it unconsciously in unnecessary things. The same exact goes for body. You cannot do with your body whatever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you in a way that you cannot change. You cannot play with it. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you. But what the Western philosophy is saying, no, you own your body, so you can be transgender, you can transfer your gender. But what Islam is saying, no, you cannot. Allah created you this way, you should be this way. And again, let's go back to marriage. So then one of the other necessities, as we said, preservation of the self. And this one, plus preservation of the offspring and family, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited abortion. So there are lots of claims now why abortion is prohibited. It is a freedom of the girl to choose to have to keep this baby or to get rid of it. But understanding within the philosophy of Islam, no, you don't own your body, you don't own the baby. You cannot decide for that. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decision. So abortion is prohibited for two reasons. Because Islam came to preserve the offspring and to preserve the soul. And once this became self, you cannot play with that. Another thing, Silat al-Rahim. Keeping and strengthening the ties of nature. It also preserves this family, preserves this unity, preserves this organization. And once you cut that, it is corruption. When people like accusing Islam for being like against certain types of relation, and Islam considers them as corruption, as like what we are having now. Islam also considers cutting the ties of kinship as corruption as well in earth. Because the standard of Islam is one, it's not by standard. As Islam aimed to preserve the family, anything that would preserve this family would be lawful and would be obligatory. And anything that would destroy these ties and destroy this family would be prohibited. And cutting the relationship, the ties of kinship, cutting the relationship with relatives is something that is considered in the Quran. فَسَادْ فِي الْأَرْضِ هَلْ عَسَيْتُمْ إِن تَوَلَّيْتُمْ أَن تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَتُقَطِّعُوا أَرْحَامَكُمْ. Would you perhaps go and cause corruption in the earth and cut the ties of your kinship? أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ. They deserve the la'na, the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What else that Islam urges Muslims to do to keep that unity? Adoption. If we take adoption partially outside of that picture and look at it as one thing, isolated, separate, some people will say, what's wrong with that? It's something kind. You will be kind to a kid, considering him as part of your family. He doesn't feel that he is strange. He doesn't feel outsider. Would we say like that? But when we put it within that frame, within that view, worldview, and philosophy, no. Because having a kid that is related to you through fatherhood or motherhood, this entails many rules and laws regarding that. Inheritance is based on that. Right? So your son, your blood son would inherit. But this son from adoption, he has your name. How can he inherit? This would create even lots of problems between him and your kids, your own kids. Another thing is, how can he be with your daughter at one place by themselves? How can the wife or the mother for adoption sit at home like without covering? So all these things are coming. So we need to understand these rules regarding family. We have to understand them under this umbrella, in this comprehensive way. Within that paradigm, isolated, they might not make sense for some people, but within that paradigm, they make more sense. They make the best of sense. So that's why Islam prohibited adoption, make it a big sin for those who would claim kids for themselves, giving them their name. But Islam encourages people to be orphans, for people who doesn't have parents. You can provide them as much as possible. You are urged to do that. You are asked to do that, but not to give them your name, because many things would be regarding that. Also, like marriage, if we're going to talk about marriage, how those kids would be regarding marriage. So there are lots of things that is based in that. So another thing that if a person chooses, oh, I'm not gonna have kids, I'm not gonna have babies. So I have marriage, I'm gonna marry, but I'm not gonna have babies. This is another thing that we need to consider. So within the Western paradigm, this would be freedom of choice. You choose whatever you like. But within the paradigm of Islam, then having things to preserve and aiming at, you can't do that. You can't decide, make this decision, no, I'm not going to have kids at all. You have to have kids. And always Islam encourages people to have kids. But it is not in the number-wise. It is number and quantity and quality. When Quran is talking about dhurriya, many times they say, or they have been dhurriyatan. He didn't say dhurriyatan, he said dhurriyatan tayyiban. And as I understand preservation, I don't understand it in that physical sense of meaning. I understand it also in that educational sense, raising sense, disciplining sense. We have dhurriya, we have offspring. Islam is preserving offspring, Islam is preserving the family, but this family should be a family of quality, should be a good family, righteous and upright family. We shouldn't be only large in numbers, because the Prophet ﷺ warned us that we would become large in numbers, but with that say, we are nothing, we are useless. And this is not what I meant, and this is not what is meant by Sharia. It's not meant to have lots of kids. There's no education, there's no good raising, there's no disciplining, there's no what is meant to a Sharia. No, Sharia meant to have good offspring, good generations that would achieve what we talked about at the beginning, the family layer of protection. But once you are having negligent generations, we are starting having these problems and these troubles. So, again, we need to rethink the family. We need to look at our family. We need to see our relationships with the family. We need to understand that having a family is something meant and aimed at by Islam and by Sharia. And everything is circulating to help and maintain and achieve that. We have a good and strong family, so consequently, we are going to have a good and strong community. And this is what we need, this is what we must aim for, and this is what Islam is trying to achieve. And all these laws, and rules, and regulations are always directed toward that direction. In family, we preserve the family as an objective, preserve the family of offspring. At the same time, we preserve the self by preserving the family. But we preserve the self physically, we preserve the family physically, the self physically and spiritually. And we preserve the deen. And this is the last thing I would like to talk about. When we're having kids, when we're having family, we are responsible for preserving the deen. When we choose the mother, and the mother is deciding on a father, we should put the deen as priority there. If this mother is the one who's going to preserve my deen first, and the deen of the kids or not. How many parents married ladies who took the kids and went away, and the kids became Christian? They don't even know what the kids converted to. Having the law. So when we are choosing, we must put the first priority, the first necessity, the first necessary objective first, preserving the deen. إذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. Sayyidina Luqman, when he was like giving us a lesson in education, how to educate the kid, what are the priorities for the kid to learn? From the beginning. Monotheism. Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Being sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ways that we can talk later, inshallah, how we can implant that in our kids, how they can understand these messages. Then, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ. Again, because parents are the ones who will keep this internalization process we talked about at the beginning. They are the ones who are going to keep this internalization. And this internalization of what? Of the religion, the values of the religion, the beliefs of the religion. This is what happens. This is what the family and the parents do. And later, after 3 or 4 verses, Sayyidina Luqman started talking to his kid about يَا بْنَيَّ أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ وَأْمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. Then, وَلَا تُصَعِّرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَمْشِ. Comes first, preserving the deen. يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. Make your kid have faith from you early ages. And with this process, you are teaching your kid other values. You are teaching your kid how to pray. And when you become like 10 years, you should force them to pray and bring them to the masjid. So, to wrap up, when we try to understand Islam, we try to understand any topic, not only the family topic. I talked about family today, and I said what, but any topic, we have to understand it within that comprehensive control. Islam is like a building, a complex building. Every single unit is put in its place. Taking it out in the space, trying to look at it by itself isolated, you would be confused. You cannot have full understanding why this is there. Put it back, look at the whole complex, the objectives, and then we can have the understanding of what's there and what we are asked to do. And we apply that to the family. And all these things regarding the family are there to preserve that family as a building unit, as a basic unit for building community. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله غفور رحيم اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا واسرافنا في امرنا وثبت حق اقدارنا وانصرنا اللهم علمنا ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمنا. ان شاء الله يعني I don't know how long we can have questions for, but we have questions. So I think 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes installation. So we have questions. 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Aisha for this 44, 45.
9:45.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, sorry. It's fine, we can hear them. I can repeat. Yeah, for your sister?
This is the question, they make noise.
Yeah, يعني if any of the brother.
خلوا الأسئلة من هنا الأول وبعدين.
Yeah.
خلوا الأسئلة من هنا الأول وبعدين نروح للأخوات.
So you will take that mic, give it, and then use this mic, right? Danny has one.
Allah.
Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes.
You said family is important. Family is of all faith, correct? And so not only marriage and all of that, so faith comes first. Faith comes before family, before. That's what the young people need to understand.
So, like, faith comes first.
Before family.
Yeah. But this is the thing. We said, like, the Islam came to preserve 5 things. Top of the priorities, preserve the religion, self, intellect, property, personal property, family. But what preserves these 4 things and make them integral part of the hearts and the mind of the kids? Family. So, for faith and religion and belief to be preserved in a community, there should be internalization. And this internalization is a process that happens first and basically is done by family. Families are the ones who make kids incorporate these values and beliefs and think of them as integral parts of their identity. And if the families lack that, if the families didn't do that, kids would not have that. And to preserve the religion, preserve the faith, it is going to be hard for the generations within the generation. So, religion comes first and foremost. But preserving the religion requires a family to be strong and requires us to preserve the family because it is all dependent on each other. As also preserving the religion is dependent on preserving the intellect. Because without having mind, without being mindful, without being conscious, you are not responsible. That's why Islam made many regulations to save that mind and save the intellect. One of them is prohibiting mind. Why? Because if you lost your mind, you are not conscious. So you are not responsible. When you faint, you are not conscious. You are not responsible. That's why people who faint, they are not responsible for what happens to them. Like during the period of being fainted. So they say al-aqlu manat al-taklif. Al-aqlu manat. Intellect is the reason behind people being responsible. Once you lose it, you lose responsibility and the capacity to make responsible. So the same thing. Once you lose a family, it is the first defense wall against attacks toward your faith and is your family, and then the larger community in the back, supporting the family and supporting you. This is.
I think you're saying
cutting keys and taqwa, veteran, you know, I think it's like, it's safe to say I'm asking. The application of the deen is in implemented when we rear our family. It's safe to say it in their regard, if I'm understanding you correctly. It's safe to say the application of us, you know, using our deen, honoring our deen, you know, with taqwa, when we rear our family, is in essence what the deen is. Therefore,
I'm sorry, can you like paraphrase the question?
I'll paraphrase. Well, it seems like you're saying, you see, when we internalize, you know, the deen, we preserve it when we rear our family. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that the family helps people internalize the values and the principles of their religion.
Okay, this is what I was to make y'all understand.
They're kind of interdependent on each other. The way I understand it. Family kind of, it's a sense of reminding each other from remembering Allah, basically.
So it mirrors.
The presence of God, fearfulness, fear of God, love of God, things, you know, motivation and things like that. Family is trying to foster that.
Right. That's what I was getting from.
Yeah. So family helps keeping that.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that.
This is the first encounter for you to start thinking about these things and start internalizing them before you go outside to the community.
Right. So family is the hallmark of the ummah.
Yeah.
Family is the hallmark of the ummah.
Yes. And the weakness of the ummah is because of the weakness of the building units. Thank you. This is a good.
It does make sense.
Yeah. Sheikh Muhammad Zaman gave the hadith. After giving the reasons why people choose to marry a certain girl or lady or marry from a certain family, we're mentioning about wealth, beauty, family status. The Prophet recommend us, but go for religion, go for faith, go for the righteous one.
Yes, in the United States, they say it takes a whole city to raise a child. Yeah?
Takes the whole city.
To raise a child.
They're not lying.
وبعدين الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ان المرء على دين خليله فينظر احدكم من خالق كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. The person is on the religion of their friend. And in this world now, as we live, if you send your child wherever you want to send your child, to school, to play out, to do all this, they get bombarded with so many different ideas.
And this is.
And for us as the older generation, who I know I didn't dare even look at my father and say no. And the way the kids here are raised, you got to speak out your mind. You got to tell your mind. So there is really a gap. There is really a problem. So how we, as members, as parents, as community individuals, how can we protect really our children, from the concepts? And you kind of mentioned homosexuality. In school nowadays, there's a day called Coming Out Day. Right, so coming out day means like I may come and Muhammad make that, and he will say, I know you've been calling me Muhammad, from now on call me Halima, because I always heard it. And this is what's happening. We have our kids are faced with this, and they supposedly, oh yeah, it's okay, it shouldn't be a problem. Yani how we approach this problem?
There is a sociologist who depicted this phenomena as liquid. So he had like a series of books by the title of liquid love, liquid religion, liquid. Because like modernity and Western philosophy make everything liquid. Everything is possible. And everything is valid. And everything could work. And this is what we look forward. The main that I believe the first task for Muslims and Muslim families is to be sure that the first values our kids internalize come from outside. And we should keep the balance. Because like it is not, because like if I can answer this question in a second, this would be That's me. If I could answer this, so there was a question about how can we make the balance between, like our kids go to school and learn about different values and things that are different from our beliefs and values. How can we fix that? So, how I understand the issue is that we need to be the main and the major educators for our kids. The kids spend more time with us at home more than the school. And the problem that the kids sometimes don't spend much more time than the school is because both parents are working and they do not assign certain time for the kids to sit with and to review what they are being internalizing the whole day from the school. We are in a challenge. And this challenge is not going to be solved by me telling you do that and don't do that. No. It is going to come from you, a decision you're going to make. Either you make the balance in your life between gaining more money and living a certain life or raising my kid the right way and live whatever life I could make to make this possible. So if both parents are working to live a certain life, to live a certain level of life, both of them should make some sacrifice. Even if they're going to live a tighter life, a less level, like a lower level life, but keep their kids and review the values that the kids are internalizing. Sit with the kids. Have conversation with the kids. Unfortunately, I met many second generation kids here in the US. And the common concern amongst them is that, especially those who are coming from, or like non-English speaking countries. The mom don't understand, my mom don't understand me. She doesn't understand what I'm talking about. And my dad is not home all the time. And sometimes the mom and the dad are not home most of the time. So who is disciplining? Who is educating that kid? What kind of values this kid is internalizing? For sure, the surrounding community. So I believe the first step is both parents should sit together because this is their hereafter project. Their kids. If they are successful in their businesses, their jobs, and they are failure with their kids, they failed. You are providing them a good life or good standards to live a bad life. You are giving them the tools to use them in increasing the corruption, increasing or applying the bad values you learned that you didn't teach them. Your kids, your family, needs it from you to protect and maintain their faith more than protecting and maintaining their daily life. You can sustain their life, by the way. But most important to sustain their deen, their faith. I hope this.
هذه الفجوة أعتقد يعني الفجوة هذه لها عدة أسباب. السبب الأول تأخر أولياء الأمور في فهم دينهم. لا خليك أنا هقولها بالإنجليزي. تأخر أولياء الأمور في فهم دينهم، فحصلت فجوة في التربية الإسلامية عند الأولاد. اللي ربى أولاده وخد باله كان عنده فكر إسلامي وعمل إسلامي من البداية، وخد بإيد أولاده لغاية ما وصلوا لسن معينة وراحوا المدارس، التقوا بمن تأخر آبائهم عن فهم هذا الدين. والحياة الشهوة تشد أكثر من أي شيء آخر. فولاد الناس اللي ما تعلموش تعليم كويس دينيا بيشدوا بيوقعوا ولاد الراجل اللي تعب عليهم وحاول يعلمهم فترة طويلة، التقوا بالجهلة فأخذوهم في الطريق المجهول. الأمر يحتاج إلى تربية من الأول ونهضة من الصفر. عندنا وقت طويل يجب أن احنا ننتبه من الآن حقيقة.
Sheikh Mohammed raised a good point that some parents were aware of that gap and they were well educated to educate their kids and to raise them in a good way, but unfortunately some parents within the Muslim community didn't have this kind of education and they kind of dragged those kids who were educated, but they dragged them in a way that affected them and impacted the way they think and the way they behave. So he confirms that we delayed the start for taking care of the kids for a long time, and this is the time when we should pay attention to that and start taking an action.
على قول الشاعر ليس اليتيم من يموت أبوه إن اليتيم بل له أما تخلت أو أبا مشغولا يعني.
The poet kind of summarized our struggle and the misery we're all living, that the orphan kid is not a guy whose parents or his dad is dead, but a guy who has a mother or a father, but the mother abandoned her womb and education and raising, and the dad is always busy to talk to the kids. So,
and on the other hand, actually, we as Muslims, we are not really proactive in trying to change the environment. And we're very much passive. We let everything go and say, it's okay, it's not going to affect me, but that's not really the case.
yeah. This is a very good point.
Yes.
Yes.
We're not waking up to the point of
Yeah. This is a very good point that Sheikh Nabil is raising here, is that and this point is important coming to the family. Families and communities, Muslim communities specifically, should not be a passive community. That is only a community that is reactionary to whatever is thrown to them. So we are a community that is influenced by families in Islam are made as a changing units. Changing units. They are not a passive units that takes the shape of the community to live in, but they are active units that reformulate and reshape the communities to be able to live a good way and live in an Islamic way. So our task is not to be shy of our beliefs or values as Muslims. Families should not let their kids shy, embarrassed to express themselves as Muslims in schools, in the community, in the university. I saw many girls who don't put hijab, put headscarf because they are kind of shy. They feel weak, vulnerable in the community, so that they cannot put the headscarf. Families should be the first place to provide this support and to strengthen these values in the hearts of their kids. Because families are not, again, they are not passive units that is just like, go with the wave. The wave is going this way, the family is going this way. No, the family is a unit that is meant to be a changing force in the community. Where the community is going this way and this way is wrong, the family should stop and provide the shield for the kids. And start with other families to form a castle, seed, and start to stop that wave and say, hey, we should go to that direction. This is what's meant in the family. But unfortunately, many of our families nowadays are passive families. We are just following the trend. We are just going with the stream. We don't have the strength to stop and say, no, we should go that way. Because the stream is high, and we ourselves, unconsciously, we are buying everything that's thrown to us. We bought materialism, and we raise our kids in a materialistic way without knowing that. And then we come and complain, why my kids don't like the Islamic school? Why my kids don't like to go to the Sunday school? Why my kids feel it boring to read Quran and to recite Quran? This is the main thing, because we ourselves raised in an individualistic and materialistic way as the whole community is going. And what is the priorities for our kids and for us that we need from our kids? Highest grades, be good in math and English, and go to the best college. What about the hereafter? This is what we should keep in mind.
I want to ask something. We get on our children. I'm pretty sure everybody gets on the children, leading them straight, right away, straight path. My question is, what's too much and what's too little? What's the midway? I know Papa, what I got son say, the 10-year-old bring them to the man and not force them, beat them and stuff like that. But what is, too much of trying to make them can break them and push them too hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, too loose and they won't play it out. They won't be able to think they can do anything they want to do. So how can you just handle everything accordingly, but then what's accordingly? So I'm like, what's
the way, the good way?
Yeah, what's the good way? Cause like what he was saying, he was like, how I go do it? Like, you said, what made me think about when you said materialism. They like, we bought into materialism. You like to see them. I mean, I go target, but it's like, but sometimes you try to. People they want because they be around their friends and you like, you can save money and stuff like this. Is that okay? But if not, then what do we do? You know what I'm saying? And like, I know you said, like, I know we're here because we want to get help, so I'm asking.
Yeah, good. So this point is important. So I can understand your question in two ways. How can we approach the kids and teenagers or whatever who are responsible for it? Should we push hard? Should we force them? No. If you force them, we are creating a community of hypocrites if we are forcing them to do that. But we should insist, not force. Keep reminding, keep telling. Okay, come with me. I will get you ice cream after we finish. It is tough for you, but it is your responsibility. You have to find the way to do it. Okay, I will give you, you are playing PlayStation, I will give you other 10 minutes if you come with me to do that. So it is you try to be creative and everyone knows how to push towards something. The other point is that how, if I understood it, but some parents kept it loose for a period of time, and they are struggling and suffering after that because they kept it loose. Like they were loose with their kids when they were young. They said they're still young. Let's leave them, until they became teenagers, and they never entered the masjid. And then they started realizing, oh, I want him to come to the masjid, and the kid doesn't want to come to the masjid. So you should start from early ages, planting these values and trying to get the kid to do what you wish for him, for his hereafter. And at the same time, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. At the same time, yes, you should aim for a good college and a good career for them. I'm not against that, but you should keep the balance. Successful is not only here, and so being successful here should lead to be successful in the hereafter. If being successful here doesn't lead to that, it is failure, not success.
As in 9:45.